In this Charge Overland adventure, I'm going to take you through a road trip I recently took with my Rivian R1T. Now, this wasn't specifically a camping or overlanding trip, but I did cover almost 1,000 miles on this road trip from Southern California up to Yosemite and back. And I thought it would be interesting to share with you where I stopped to charge and just my experience, obviously visiting Yosemite and what it was like using the Rivian charging network. The first leg of this journey was from Southern California up to Bakersfield. We stopped at an Electrify America station for about 50 minutes and we grabbed some lunch while the truck was charging. So we left with 90% charge or about 265 miles of range, and our next stop was just to pick up some groceries. There happened to be a charging station at that location, so we just plugged in while we were inside, but we really didn't need to make that stop to get to Yosemite. So then we continued on another 90 miles or so, and we were in Yosemite Valley. So we were staying at the Yosemite Valley Lodge, and there are actually 8 Rivian charging stations here. They were very easy to use. All I had to do was plug the truck in and it automatically started charging. Didn't even have to use the Rivian app. And I just left the truck plugged in overnight, and we had plenty of miles every day to drive around and explore. The next morning we got up and we were getting ready to go on a hike, and the smoke from a wildfire nearby was really bad. The air quality was hazardous, so we had to change our plans. We decided to drive around and take some photos, but not spend too much time outside and just wait for the smoke to hopefully clear later in the day. We made our way up to the Yosemite Valley lookout, and you can see here how much smoke is settled in the valley. Luckily, as the day went on, the smoke cleared out and we were able to make our way over to Mirror Lake to start a hike. After a really nice hike, we headed back to relax and have some dinner and plug the Rivian in for the night. So the next morning, there was definitely still lots of smoke, and there was actually ash on the truck that had settled overnight and in the morning. So we decided to head over to the visitor center and talk to a ranger just to see if they had any recommendations for what we could do. As we were walking over, we ran into a couple deer that were just meandering around, and they did not seem bothered at all by any of the people nearby, which was really cool. So the ranger we talked to was really helpful. They definitely encouraged us not to go out and hike with the air quality being what it was, but they did suggest checking out Tanaya Lake. Now, this is a little over an hour outside of Yosemite Valley, so it's a bit of a drive, but it was definitely worth it. The views along the drive were really nice. There was a spot where you got a really cool view of Half Dome, and Tanaya Lake was not crowded at all when we were there. There were some beautiful beaches, and it was really just a great spot to hang out and relax. So we spent a few hours there, and early afternoon we started making our way back to Yosemite Valley. So by the time we got back later in the afternoon, the smoke had basically cleared out, and we decided to head over to a hike that we wanted to do, which was called Vernal Falls. We were here in early September, and generally this time of year the waterfalls have kind of dried up, but on this hike the Vernal Falls waterfall was still going. It definitely wasn't as massive as it would have been if we had been here early in the year, but the hike was still really beautiful. It was definitely a little challenging. There were a lot of steps towards the end, but it was really worth it for the amazing views once you got to the top of the falls. Once we finished up the hike, we caught sunset right near where we were staying, and that was pretty much it for our trip to Yosemite. The next morning, we left with basically a full charge. Our first charging stop was in Tulare, California at an Electrify America station. This was the first charging station on this trip I ran into that did not work as it was supposed to. It still charged, but I was getting an extremely low rate of charge. We finished our lunch there, and then we made one more stop, again in Bakersfield, at another Electrify America station. It was free charging at the time, so I don't have a receipt from that one, but that was our final charge before we got home. So that sums up the Yosemite road trip. In the next Charge Overland video, I cover a ton of miles both on and off-road, meet up with some friends to camp in the mountains, and attempt to summit Mount Whitney. I also explore Alabama hills, do some off-roading, check out Trona Pinnacles, and more. Stay tuned.